sure that you do that. Okay, so the power of being concrete is often illustrated, and I'm going to use an illustration today of Aesop's fable. Does everybody know who Aesop is? Okay. Aesop actually was a slave for many years. He eventually won his freedom, but his pithy fables are still around today. And you guys might recognize some of them, such as Tortoise and the Hare, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, The Goose Who Laid the Golden Eggs, or The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. So I'm going to read one to you now. One summer day, a fox was strolling through an orchard. He saw a bunch of grapes high on the grapevine. Just the thing that quenched my thirst, he said. Backing up a few paces, he took a run and jumped at the grapes, just missing. Turning around, he ran faster and jumped again. Still a miss. Again and again he jumped until at last he gave up in exhaustion. Walking away with his nose in the air, he said, I am sure they are sour. It's easy to despise what you can't get. Chances are that even if you've never heard the fable, The Fox and the Grapes, you have heard the phrase, sour grapes. That's where it comes from. Sour grapes.
I thought it came from my last girlfriend.
So sour grapes encapsulates the moral of the story. And Aesop came out with that fable about 2,500 years ago and still around now. So, and almost in every language, in every country, you'll find a translation of the sour grapes. So it's sticky. And it's sticky because it reflects a profound truth. But of course, as we all know, there are many profound truths today that are running around that are not sticky. The reason that particular fable or those fables of Aesop's are sticky is because they're encoded. If you think about the fable, there's images that pop in your head, right? When I talk about a fox, grapes, the message that he gave at the end about dismissive comment about sour grapes is what allows that message to persist and has maintained it. So it's encoded. So when you're talking to people, think about how to make something concrete is by using images oftentimes or tying it into things that are going to make it encode it so that people are able to remember it easier. Now, one suspects that the lifespan of Aesop's ideas would have been shorter if they'd been encoded as Aesop's helpful suggestions. Don't be such a bitter jerk when you fail. The world needs a lot more fables. Now, interestingly enough, there's a lot in these books, in this book, and I can't share them all with you because we don't have the time. But he talks about a satirical website, and I went to check it out after he talked about it, which features a business buzzword generator. Readers can produce their own business buzzwords by combining words. This yields words such as reciprocal, cost-based re-engineering, customer-oriented visionary paradigm, strategic logistical values. I don't care what profession you're in, we all have buzzwords in our business. And you've heard some of those. Teachers have their own buzzwords. Metacognitive skills, intrinsic motivation, portfolio assessment, developmentally appropriate, or thematic learning are some examples of buzzwords in teaching. And if you've ever been to a doctor or been in the medical profession, we have all kinds of words there. Like one of their favorites in here is idiopathic cardiomyopathy. Cardio means what? Heart. Myopathy is actually a disease of the heart. Okay, so it means that there's some problem with your heart. Idiopathic means we don't know why that is. So language is often abstract, but life is not. Okay? So in order to make things easier to understand, we have to look at tangibles. People do tangible things. I don't care whether you're a teacher, you're teaching about books, animals, whatever. If you're a doctor, you're treating people's stomachs or their backs or whatever the problem may be. Okay, so abstraction makes it harder to understand an idea and to remember it. It also makes it harder to coordinate with other people if you're abstract. So you want to be concrete. Abstraction is the luxury of the expert. And what I mean by that is that in the expert, there's an old Zen saying that says that in the expert's mind, there are a few possibilities, but in the beginner's mind, there are many. Because if you know everything, if you're an expert in your profession, oftentimes the person that you're talking to is not an expert. So you know what you know, but they don't know what you know, and oftentimes what you're trying to get across to them, they don't understand. So for the novice, or for somebody that doesn't understand your industry or your profession, you want to use concrete terms in talking to them. You want to be concrete, less abstraction. So what is concrete? A V8 engine is concrete. High performance is an abstraction. Okay? So most of the time, concreteness boils down to specific people doing specific things. Even the most abstract business must show up with tangible actions of human beings. Concrete ideas are easier to remember, and they take concrete ideas are easier to remember. Take individual words, for example. Experiments have shown that people remember concrete abstract nouns such as bicycle or avocado over ideas like justice or personality, words like that. So in the kidney heist urban legend that I gave you, there were lots of tons of detail, as in the fable. We talked about Proverbs when we were talking about simple. We said we want things to be profound and simple. Okay? So again, the villain of simple, of concrete, is the curse of knowledge. People being experts in your profession, it'd be like building a house and taking and building the roof up in the air. You want to be able to make it so that people understand it. You wouldn't start there. So the main difference between an expert and a novice is the ability of the expert to see things abstractly. For example, the difference in reaction between a judge and a jury. The jury sees all the concrete aspects of the trial, the lawyer's clothing, the manner, the specific procedures, etc. But the judge sees all in terms of legal precedent and the lessons of past cases in law. Novices perceive concrete details, and experts see concrete details as symbols of a pattern. So bring it back down to being concrete. If you want to help people to get an idea or to understand something, make it concrete. Concrete example. JFK said, "I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." When presented with a difficult concept, people desire an example. The average American would not resonate with achieving aerospace initiative, but man on the moon is very concrete. So, does everybody know what Velcro is? You've all seen Velcro?
You mean this?
Yes, that's it. So this is Velcro, right? On one side of the Velcro you have hooks, and on the other side you have the material that sticks to the hooks. So memory is a lot like Velcro. We used to think that memory was like a filing cabinet. When you put something in the file cabinet, into your memory, it went into the file cabinet. But studies have now shown that memory is more like Velcro. There's lots of hooks in something, and you want to be able to use that. We talked about schemas last time that I presented. We talked about schemas. Everybody remember what schemas are? The pomelo tastes like a grapefruit, so you know what it is. There's an association. So memory works that way. So you want your things to be sticky, and you want them to be memorable. So the answer for concreteness, what we're looking for, is the nature of our memories. Memory, most of us have a sense that remembering something is a bit like putting it in storage. To remember a story is to file it away in our cerebral filing cabinets. There's nothing wrong with this analogy, but the surprising thing is that there may be completely different filing cabinets. So I'm going to give you guys a test. You didn't know that there was going to be a test today, but I'm going to give you a test.
B-A-C-C-D.
So I'd like you guys to just close your eyes for a second and remember the capital of Kansas.
What is it?
Remember the first line of Hey Jude. Remember the Mona Lisa. Remember the house where you spent most of your childhood. Remember the definition of truth. And remember the definition of watermelon. Okay, that's the end of the test. Now we'll see. If you did that exercise and you tried to remember those, each and every one of those things, you found that you were using different parts of your memory to bring them up. So the analogy used to be that we'd stuck everything into the file cabinet and there, it was in our file cabinet. But studies have shown now that there's different parts of memory that you use to access different parts of your brain or of an idea. So remembering the capital of Kansas is difficult because it's abstract. It's not concrete. Okay? So when you think of Hey Jude, you may have thought of Paul McCartney, okay, and maybe playing the piano. You think about the Mona Lisa, and you're thinking about probably the visual popped up into your mind when you're recalling that. Remembering your childhood home might have invoked a host of memories, whether it's smells, sounds, sights. You might even have felt yourself running through your home or remembering where your parents used to sit. The definition of truth may be a bit harder to summon. You certainly have a sense of what truth means, but you probably had no pre-formulated definition to pluck out of your memory. You might have had to create a definition on the fly that seemed to fit with your sense of what truth means. And then the definition of watermelon might have also invoked some mental gyrations. The word watermelon, oftentimes you think of green rind, you think of it being striped, you might think of the red fruit in there. But again, to have a sense of the definition of watermelon, it's probably not there. So remember that memory is not like a single filing cabinet, it's more like Velcro. So your brain hosts a truly staggering number of loops. The more loops or hooks an idea has, the better it will cling to your memory. Your childhood has a gazillion hooks in your brain. A new credit card has one if you're lucky. So make it concrete. So I'm going to wrap it up. So concreteness is about making it memorable. Abstract is not what you're looking for. And explain your ideas in terms of human actions, in terms of sensory. When you're remembering something, whether it's the Mona Lisa or it's a watermelon, you're using parts of your memory to make it memorable. So that's it for today. Well, it's funny because each one of them relies on something else. It reminds on simple core schemas from last time that I presented. Each thing kind of builds upon other things, so it's all related. Once you start to put it all together, hopefully towards the end we'll have a better sense of what it means to make something stick.
Cool.